With E3 out of the way, there's lots of information floating about some highly anticipated games, and there was one that really captured my attention among others, which is CD Projekt's Red Cyberpunk 2077. For our convenience, I decided to compile the information we have so far on potentially as big of a hit as Witcher 3, so I just could not miss it, and I decided to just make a compilation of the information that we've got to avoid the gossips, the unconfirmed information. All the stuff are here were compiled from the interviews, the press releases, and a little bit of insider information. The parts that are a bit of speculation, I am gonna make those pretty clear. So first off, we do not have a release date for Cyberpunk 2077, but in classic CD Projekt fashion, it is said it will be out when it's done. And so far, they've kept their word. With that statement, so I would not worry about it. Meanwhile, here's what else that we know. So, let's first see what is Cyberpunk. For those who are not familiar with the concept, Cyberpunk is mostly characterized by a future or near future world from the eyes of the cyberpunk writers of 80s and 90s such as William Gibson, Philip K. Dick, and many others. So you've got a hugely stratified society, extreme income inequality, huge divides between rich and the poor where the corporations basically rule the world. And the poor are basically left to die on the streets. Most of them have become a part of the gang to survive and all that, but a lot of those things can be attributed to like any kind of post-apocalyptic. But now what does make it punk though is the technology. In fact, in a way, if you think about it, it's not that far from our world, kind of sadly. I think the sentence that really describes cyberpunk, though, with that technology and everything, high-tech, low-life. I saw that a while ago, well, a long time ago, in a Facebook group actually, Chatsubo, and damn, it just got stuck with me. It just describes it so well. A good example of that would be Deus Ex series in general, both the old and the new ones, that the feel of those dirty streets, high-tech implants, gadgets, huge conglomerates, conspiracies, news agencies, spinning stories how they want, you get the picture. And the picture really speaks for itself. Well, before the video game, there was a tabletop of Cyberpunk 2077 called Cyberpunk 2013 and 2020. I am not too familiar with, but from what I have gathered, that's where 2077 gets its world and its classes, as well as some characters, similarly to what Witcher did, but built on top of it. The tabletop was written by this guy, Mike Pondsmith. From what I've read around the net, he is also working with the development of this game, which is really exciting. There are few confirmed things that are coming from the tabletop, such as some of the classes, or as they're called, the roles, and the setting. So let's talk about those. First up, the story. It's been confirmed that it takes place in the Night City, which is somewhere between LA and San Francisco, which from the map it looks like it's between or around Salinas, Monterey, or Castroville, as you can see from the map. And from what I've seen, it looks like I'm showing now. It has 6 unique districts in each city, and each area has its own feel on top of the base noir feel. And by base noir feel, as you can see from these images, they carry a lot of message, a lot of feel to them. It's very hard to describe, but I believe you're getting it. Gameplay wise, it's gonna be a first person RPG with shooter elements. So it feels a lot like a Fallout New Vegas from my understanding, or more like a Deus Ex perhaps. Lots of customization, there's gonna be huge amounts of customization. While there will be classes, which we'll talk about in a second, you can mix and match your class apparently, which I know I will be doing. And we had Angry Joe interview the creator of the tabletop, Mike Pondsmith, and one of the lead designers, where we found out about a few things such as day and night cycle, And just like in Witcher 3, you will be able to finish and progress missions in multiple ways and a lot of unexpected ways. So, back in the days of Deus Ex, you had these missions that you would, well, basically it's from point A to B, and how you got there was up to you, which was really revolutionary. I like that. But Witcher 3 took it to the next level, and the result of the mission, in fact, following the standard path, might actually be the worst way of finishing it by getting other pieces of information, other things added on top of it. It might actually be better. So a simple contract might actually hide a very deep story. There was also some romance options in Cyberpunk, as well as one night stands, which I find quite in line with the Cyberpunk atmosphere, with the whole high-tech, low-life kind of that depressive atmosphere, people looking for constant escapism sort of way. So, speaking of the classes, in tabletop you had lots of classes, and I'm grossly simplifying those who are not familiar with the tabletop. You have Fixer, who would play like a rogue slash information broker. Solo, who is more like a combat-focused mercenary. Techie, who builds and upgrades technology, so more of an engineer from my understanding. Corporate, who is like a mid to high level manager or some corporate role, who can call in favors from his corporation. Sounds like a lot more non-combat role. Kind of maybe stick with the group and just make sure they don't go out of line sort of guy. Netrunner, a hacker who uses a neural link to capture or manipulate the network and everything to their wishes. So from my imagination, it looks like some kind of Second Life hacker. So like a guy logs into the whatever it is, that environment, and hacks it from the inside using their brain jacks. And the next class really explains it. Crystal Jock, who is an old school hacker. So like old or analog hacker, in other words, who uses social engineering, standard computer hacking, and Nomad. It's a Mad Max style road warrior driven from their old lives by a corporation. So with the corporations becoming huge and extremely powerful, they have started to just buy out land and just basically own more and more territory, control more of people's lives. And some people just couldn't live with that. Some people would just get fired and would be blacklisted. What are they gonna do, just die on the streets? No. They started forming their gangs. They would travel from place to place, work as mercenaries. But so as you can see, but these are not even this is just about half of the classes available. These are also called roles. You have your rocker boy, panzer boy, things like that. There are a lot more. In fact, these listed classes are, well, as I said, roles. We're going to be seeing these as NPC archetypes. In the game, you will have the abilities from 3 classes, however, so you're kind of sort of limited to 3 classes, but we will see. From my understanding, it's going to be similar to Witcher, where you can go full into one and a bit into others, or be a complete hybrid. It's up to you. The class system in Witcher was wonderfully executed, so I have no doubt it will do very well here. The 3 classes whose abilities you can select are going to be Solo, Netrunner, and Techie. So you're not necessarily pigeonholed into a class, but how it's gonna be is a little blurry at this point. And let's talk about the progression. How do you get those abilities, the good stuff? There are 2 types of XP, your core XP and the street cred. Core XP is self-explanatory, and street cred unlocks more vendors and fixer contracts. So other tabletop classes are gonna be present as like characters which will be appearing. I think that's a nice touch. I think the street cred will be quite interesting, because in my speculation, now this is completely speculation, that it could also unlock new dialogue options and new missions. I mean, think about it. There is a clear difference between a no-name street punk versus an urban legend. You know the type that looks and acts like he could just hack you by staring at you hard enough. The core XP seems like it's going to be used for ability upgrades, I assume, which are 3 style. There are also revealed perks unlockable in addition to the abilities, but sadly I do not have much info on those. The developers have emphasized the choice and the consequences quite a bit, unlike, say, BioWare, where you choose in what order you're going to take those scripted quests. In the Witcher series, you sided with literally made 2 different games. This time, I really believe it. Well, let's talk about the character. The main character is called V, and I will be very disappointed if there's no dialogue pointing out how edgy that is after V for Vendetta. Well, both male and female are fully voiced, and the female one is drawing quite a bit of good attention, so some positive attention. Gotta check that out too. You will be able to customize your looks, clothing, which will of course have effects. I speculate on the street cred gain and maybe some like faction influences and things like that. It would be nice if they had characters pointing out your style of clothing when they talk about V, but that's just my hope. You will be able to also pick a backstory, and V's personality will be shaped by your background decisions as well as dialogue options. So the world is gonna be one of the main focuses of Cyberpunk 2077. From what we have been told, the map, while on overall not as big, or I should say not as wide as Witcher 3, it will be vertically big. So a lot of enterable buildings with even skyscrapers. Exploration is very much encouraged, and it will be similar to Witcher in the sense that you see that weird building in the distance, you can go there. You can go there, and chances are you're gonna find some really awesome stuff. The world design, just like in The Witcher, is at the forefront, but I don't want to spoil more than needed. It's just really excited about it. There's a lot of bit of confusion going on surrounding, is it an RPG or first-person shooter? And for God's sake, it's been 10 damn years since the release of Fallout 3. 10 years, and people still do not get the concept that your RPG and FPS are not determined by their camera style, but by the focus of the experience. This game is gonna focus on the role-playing aspect. You play as a character in the Cyberpunk universe with their own background, with different abilities, and shooting guns is just one of them. It's just part of the experience, it's not the core experience. Are there still people calling Deus Ex an FPS because it was mostly a first person? If there is no third person mode, which I like to use sometimes, to admire the equipment, just to see how my character looks, it's just such a moot point, and even if it's so important, there's probably gonna be a mod for it. People just relax. And there are also a lot of arguments from the developers to make the first-person camera is that activating some of the abilities, your eye enhancement, is going to be a lot more immersive, and a lot of the character interactions are going to be in your face, sort of thing, like people threatening you. But when that happened in like third person, it just doesn't have the same impact. When you're entering a nightclub, and if you pick certain dialogue options, the guy starts kind of like threatening to try to in your face. And I really didn't like that. It really kind of aggravated me, and I realized I was having an actual experience, an actual emotion about something happening, and I would not be able to get that in the third person. So I think it's a good decision. I don't think we need to worry about it. So that's all what you needed to know about Cyberpunk 2077. A lot of this info was compiled from the announcements, interviews, and a little bit of insider information. I'd like to thank Conrad Constantine for bringing the fans a lot of this information in a very nice, compact post. Let us know what you think about this info and the game itself. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and maybe in the future we'll make more videos like this, and we'll see you next time.